Single mom enters billionaire's car, thinking it's her Uber, when he doesn't correct her. Hello, viewer. Thanks for joining us. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments, along with the city you're watching from. Now let's continue with the story. I'm cancelling the order, Miss Petrova. All of it. Yes, I understand you already baked everything. That is not my concern anymore. Lena Petrova stood frozen under the restaurant awning, rain hammering the Chicago streets around her. Her phone pressed so hard against her ear, it hurt. $10,000. She had spent 3 days preparing pastries for the Whitmore anniversary party. 3 days of her grandmother's recipes, her hands raw from kneading dough, her eyes burning from lack of sleep. But, Mr. Whitmore, we had a contract. My wife changed her mind. She wants French macarons now, not your rustic Eastern European pastries. I'm sure you understand. The line went dead. Lena stared at her phone screen, watching rain droplets race down the glass like tiny transparent tears. Behind her, stacked in the restaurant kitchen, sat 240 pierogi pastries, 150 rugula, 75 apple strudels, all paid for with money she did not have, all worthless now. Thunder cracked overhead. The October storm had arrived with the violence of a fist, turning the early evening into premature night. She pulled her chef's jacket tighter, but it offered no protection. Her thin canvas bags, loaded with samples she had hoped to leave with the Whitmores, grew heavier with each passing second. Noah. She had to get home to Noah. Mrs. Chen, her elderly neighbor, had agreed to watch him until 7, and it was already 6:45. Another late pickup meant another apologetic conversation. Another reminder that she was always just barely keeping her head above water. A black sedan idled at the curb, hazard lights blinking. Her Uber. Finally, something going right, even if it was just a $12 ride home. She yanked open the rear door and collapsed inside, water streaming from her hair, her clothes, her soul. "I am so sorry," she said, heaving her bags onto the seat beside her. "I know I am soaking your car. Today has been the worst day of my entire life, and that is really saying something because I have had some truly terrible days." The driver said nothing. Through the rain-blurred partition, she could make out only his silhouette. North Ashland Avenue, please. Between Diversey and Fullerton, the building with the blue awning. Well, it used to be blue. Now it is more grey-blue, sad blue. She laughed, but it came out wrong, jagged and sharp. Everything is sad blue today, is it not? Still, silence from the front seat. $10,000, she continued, unable to stop herself. The words poured out like the rain outside. He cancelled a $10,000 order because his wife decided she wanted French macarons instead of my rustic pastries. Rustic. Do you know what rustic means? It means poor. It means immigrant. It means not good enough for people like the Whitmores. She wiped her eyes, unsure if the wetness was rain or tears. "I have a son, Noah. He is 7 years old, and he needs new shoes because his feet keep growing, even though my bank account does not. He needs new shoes, and I just lost $10,000, and I do not know how I'm going to—" Her voice cracked. "I am sorry. You do not need to hear this. You probably hear sad stories all night long. I am just another fare, right? Another wet, pathetic person bleeding their problems into your back seat." The car remained motionless at the curb. Rain drummed on the roof like impatient fingers. In the driver's seat, Alistair James Finch gripped the steering wheel and made a decision that would alter the course of his life. His own driver, Thomas, had called moments ago with car trouble. Alistair had been waiting, watching the storm, when this woman, this exhausted, drenched, heartbroken woman, had opened his door and collapsed into his world. He should correct her. He should explain the mistake. He should tell her he was not her Uber driver, that he was actually Alistair Finch, that his net worth was $4.2 billion, that he ran Finch Capital Partners from the 40th floor of the building 3 blocks behind them. But when was the last time someone had spoken to him like this, not as a source of money or influence or opportunity, but simply as another human being? When was the last time someone had been real with him? "North Ashland Avenue," he said quietly, pulling away from the curb. "Between Diversey and Fullerton, the building with the sad blue awning. I know the one." In the back seat, Lena exhaled slowly. "Thank you. Just thank you for not kicking me out for being a disaster." "We all have disasters," Alistair heard himself say. "Some of us just hide them better." They drove through the storm in a silence that felt oddly comfortable. Alistair watched her in the rear-view mirror. She had closed her eyes, her head resting against the window, honey-blonde hair plastered to her pale face. She looked like someone who had been running for so long she had forgotten how to stop. She looked tired in a way that sleep could not fix. "What is your son's name?" he asked, surprising himself. "Noah." Her eyes remained closed, but a small smile touched her lips. "Noah Alexander. He loves dinosaurs and drawing and asking impossible questions like, why do people lie and when will I have a dad again? You know, easy stuff. When will I have a dad again?" Alistair repeated the words softly. That is an impossible question. They all are, with kids. Every question is impossible until you realize they just want the truth. Even if the truth is, "I do not know, sweetheart." She opened her eyes, staring at the rain. "His father died 2 years ago. Well, his father left 2 years ago, and then he died. The leaving was worse than the dying, if I am being honest. The leaving was when we discovered everything about him was a lie. The dying just made it final." Alistair absorbed this information, felt it settle in his chest like a stone. She had been betrayed. Her child had been betrayed. And here he sat, beginning another lie by omission, betraying her in real time. Tell her. Tell her now, but he did not. Instead, he said, "I am sorry for your loss, for your son's loss. Do not be sorry for the loss. Be sorry that we wasted years on someone who did not deserve us. That is the real tragedy. Not that he is gone, but that he was never really there to begin with." She paused. "Sorry, again, too much information for an Uber driver. Maybe Uber drivers hear exactly what people need to say out loud." She laughed then, genuinely. It was a good sound, like light finding its way through storm clouds. "Maybe you are right. Maybe this is therapy, not transportation." They pulled up in front of her building. 3 stories. Brick, tired but standing. Lights glowed in windows like promises of warmth. $22.15, she said, checking her phone. "Plus tip. Here." She handed him $30, wet and crumpled. "Thank you, really. For the ride and for listening and for not making me feel stupid for falling apart." Alistair took the money, unsure what else to do. "You are not stupid. You are human. There is a difference." She gathered her heavy bags, preparing to brave the rain one more time. At the door, she turned back. "What is your name? I want to give you 5 stars, but I need a name." He hesitated. This was the moment. Tell her the truth. "Al," he said instead. Just Al, you are the best part of my terrible day." "Thank you." She smiled at him once more, then ran through the rain toward her building, shoulders hunched against the storm. Alistair sat in the dark car, watching until her lights came on in a 3rd-floor window. He looked down at the $30 in his hand. He had not touched cash in years. Everything in his life was electronic, abstract, divorced from reality. "What have I just done?" he whispered to himself. But even as he asked the question, he knew the answer. For the first time in longer than he could remember, someone had seen him not as Alistair Finch, billionaire, but simply as Al. a person kind enough to listen when another person needed to be heard, and he wanted more of that feeling. God help him, he wanted so much more. Morning arrived cruel and bright. Lena's alarm screamed at 4:30, dragging her from dreams where money grew on trees and cancelled orders apologized for their mistakes. Reality reasserted itself with the weight of unpaid bills stacked on her kitchen table. She moved through her morning routine on autopilot: shower, coffee, wake Noah, breakfast while he rubbed sleep from his grey eyes, hair sticking up in 7 directions, pack his lunch. Listen to him chatter about the solar system project due Friday while her mind calculated and recalculated her bank balance, searching for solutions that did not exist. "Mom," Noah's voice cut through her financial panic. "You are not listening." "I am listening, sweetheart. Jupiter, the biggest planet, very important." "That was 5 minutes ago." "I asked if you are sad." His serious little face studied her with the uncomfortable perception of children who had learned too early that adults do not always tell the truth. "You have your sad face. The one you make when you think I am not looking." Lena forced brightness she did not feel. "I am not sad. I am just tired. Grown-up tired, not kid tired. There is a difference." "What is the difference?" "Kid tired means you need sleep. A grown-up tired means you need—" She trailed off. What did she need? A miracle, a time machine, a world where good work and honest effort guaranteed security. Coffee. Grown-ups need coffee. He accepted this explanation with a solemn nod, returning to his cereal. At 7 years old, he already understood that some adult truths could not be spoken aloud. The Grand Meridian Hotel kitchen welcomed her with the scent of yeast and butter, the hiss of industrial ovens, the clatter of metal on metal. This was her world, not glamorous, not lucrative, but hers. She had been the morning pastry chef here for 4 years, creating croissants and danishes that guests consumed without thought, never knowing the hands that shaped them. "You look like death warmed over, Amor." Rosa Martinez appeared beside her, already in full chef's whites, her warm brown eyes narrowed with concern. "What happened?" "Whitmore cancelled. All of it." Rosa's expression transformed from concern to fury. "That miserable—" "Do not," Lena cut her off. "Just do not. If I start, I will not stop, and I need this job. I need to show up and do the work and pretend that everything is fine, because everything has to be fine. Noah needs shoes. The rent is due in 12 days. Fine is not optional." Rosa wrapped her in a brief, fierce hug. "You are allowed to not be fine, you know. You are allowed to be angry. Anger does not pay bills." Lena pulled away, tying her apron with practiced efficiency. "Croissants pay bills, barely, but they pay." They worked in companionable silence for a while, the rhythm of kneading and shaping as familiar as breathing. Around them, the kitchen staff performed their morning ballet, each person moving with choreographed precision. "So what will you do?" Rosa finally asked. "About the money you spent on Whitmore's order." "Eat the loss, literally. I will bring the pastries to the weekend farmers market, sell what I can, the rest—" She shrugged. "The rest will be a very expensive lesson in getting contracts that cannot be broken. That is not fair. Fair is a fairy tale we tell children." Lena shaped another croissant, her hands moving automatically. "Reality is working 2 jobs and still wondering if you can afford new shoes for your kid." Rosa fell quiet again, but Lena felt her friend's worry like heat from the ovens. They had met 4 years ago, both newly single mothers, both working themselves to exhaustion, both pretending they had everything under control. Rosa had twin 5-year-old daughters, Emma and Sophia, and her ex-husband who contributed exactly nothing but criticism. "There was this Uber driver last night," Lena said suddenly. "After Whitmore called, I fell apart in his car, just completely melted down, and he just listened. Did not judge, did not offer useless advice, just drove me home and let me be human for 12 minutes. Sounds like a unicorn, right? I kept waiting for him to turn creepy or weird, but he was just kind. Is that strange? That simple kindness from a stranger felt like a gift? In this world, Rosa laughed without humor, kindness from anyone feels like a gift. The morning rush hit at 7, and conversation became impossible. Lena lost herself in the work, grateful for the distraction. Hands busy meant mind quiet, at least temporarily. By noon, her back ached and her feet throbbed, but the morning baking was complete. She changed out of her chef's jacket, pulled on her street clothes, and headed outside for her lunch break. She would eat the sandwich she had packed, peanut butter because deli meat was expensive, and then return for the afternoon prep work. The October sunshine felt like a benediction after the hot kitchen. She found her usual bench in the small park adjacent to the hotel and unwrapped her sandwich. Around her, Chicago thrummed with midday energy. Businessmen in expensive suits strode past, their faces tight with importance. Young mothers pushed strollers, seeking sunshine before the weather turned cold for good. A street musician played saxophone, the notes floating up like prayers. A black sedan pulled into the loading zone in front of the hotel. Lena glanced up, momentarily interested, because the hotel did not usually see such expensive cars during lunch hours. The really wealthy guests arrived in the evenings, after their important days doing important things. The driver's window was down. She saw his profile, salt and pepper hair, strong jaw, familiar somehow. Her heart did a strange little jump. No, it could not be. Uber drivers did not loiter in expensive cars outside luxury hotels in the middle of the day. She was seeing things, making connections that did not exist because she was tired and stressed and apparently inventing patterns where none existed. But something about the way he held his head, the set of his shoulders. He turned, and for a moment their eyes met across 50 feet of concrete and afternoon light. Recognition flared in his face. He knew her. He had been thinking about her. Lena's sandwich forgotten. She half rose from her bench. Should she wave, walk over, pretend she had not seen him? Before she could decide, a hotel doorman approached the car. The window rolled up. The car pulled away, disappearing into traffic. She sat down slowly, pulse racing for reasons she could not quite name. It was him, the driver from last night, just Al. But what was he doing here? Had he followed her? No, that was paranoid. Maybe he drove for one of the ride-sharing services and had just happened to drop someone at the hotel. Coincidence. That was all. Chicago was big, but not that big. People crossed paths. It meant nothing, except the way he had looked at her. Like he had been hoping to see her, like he had been waiting. Rosa found her 10 minutes later, still sitting on the bench, sandwich untouched. "You okay? You looked like you saw a ghost." "Maybe I did," Lena said softly. "Or maybe I'm just so desperate for something good that I am inventing it in places it does not exist." "What are you talking about?" But Lena shook her head. "Nothing. Forget it. I need to get back inside." That night, after she picked up Noah from the after-school program, after they ate dinner, after he showed her his latest drawing, a T-Rex fighting a Triceratops with surprising anatomical accuracy, after she tucked him in and read him 3 chapters of his current favorite book, after she finished the dishes and folded the laundry and paid what bills she could afford to pay, Lena sat at her kitchen table and stared at her phone. She opened the Uber app, her recent trips, last night, just Al, 5 stars. She had planned to give him. She tapped the rating, selected 5 stars, then paused at the tip options. She had already given him cash, but something made her add a $5 digital tip anyway, and in the comment section she wrote, "Thank you for your kindness when I needed it most." She hit submit, then immediately felt foolish. He probably received dozens of rides a day. He would not remember her, one more weeping woman among many, but maybe, just maybe, kindness deserved to be acknowledged. Even small kindnesses, especially small kindnesses. Lena turned off the lights and went to bed, unaware that 3 miles away, Alistair Finch sat in his penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan, staring at a notification on his phone, a 5-star rating, a tip, a comment. "Thank you for your kindness when I needed it most." He read it 17 times before finally setting his phone down. In the morning, he had board meetings, quarterly reports, a conference call with investors in Singapore. His real life awaited, the one where he was Alistair, not Al. But for tonight, he let himself imagine a world where he could be both, where he could be seen, where someone like her might see him and smile. Saturday morning found Lena at the farmer's market in Lincoln Park, her booth arranged with the precision of someone who understood that presentation meant survival. The leftover pastries from the Whitmore debacle, carefully wrapped and priced to move. Her grandmother's recipes, the ones passed down through 3 generations, the ones that tasted like memory and home. The autumn market bustled with energy. Young families seeking organic vegetables, elderly couples on morning walks, joggers stopping for fresh juice. Lena had been selling here for 2 years, slowly building a small but loyal customer base. These Saturday mornings provided a critical supplement to her hotel income, sometimes adding an extra $200 to her weekly budget. $200 meant Noah's shoes, meant breathing room, meant hope. "How much for the rugula?" A woman in expensive athleisure wear pointed at the pastries without really looking at them. $3 each, or 4 for $10. "They are a bit rustic, are they not?" The woman's nose wrinkled slightly. Rustic, that word again. Lena swallowed the sharp response building in her throat. "They are traditional. My grandmother's recipe from Russia, made with real butter, real cream cheese, hand-rolled." "I will take 2. The woman handed her a $10 bill without waiting for change, already moving to the next booth. Charity, Lena recognized, not appreciation. Charity from someone who did not know the difference between rustic and authentic. By 9, she had sold perhaps $40 worth. Not terrible, but not enough. The morning remained young, she told herself. People came later, after brunch plans fell through, after morning commitments ended. Noah appeared from behind the booth, where he had been arranging his latest drawings for potential sale. Her mother, Kate, followed, carrying 2 coffee cups. "Grandma bought me a hot chocolate with whipped cream," Noah announced, a white mustache decorating his upper lip, "and she said I could keep any money people give me for my art." Did she now? Lena shot her mother a look. Kate Morrison, at 63, remained beautiful in that timeless way some women achieved, her silver hair styled simply, her face lined with years of smiling. But worry lived in her eyes these days, worry for her daughter who worked too hard and hurt too much. "Someone should profit from talent today," Kate said mildly, handing Lena a cup. "Black coffee, 2 sugars. You look like you need it." "I need a lot of things." Coffee is just the most legal one. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the market flow around them. This had been their Saturday morning ritual since Marcus died. Kate watching Noah while Lena sold pastries, 3 generations connected by butter and flour and stubborn determination. "Your father wants to help," Kate said quietly. "With money. He has his pension and we could—" "No," Lena cut her off firmly. "You and Dad have done enough. You watch Noah 3 days a week. You have been my lifeline. I cannot take your retirement money too." "It is not taking if we are offering. It is taking if I cannot pay it back." Kate sighed but did not argue. They had had this conversation before, would probably have it again. Pride and desperation, locked in eternal combat, neither willing to surrender. "Morning!" The male voice startled them both. Lena turned, and her world tilted slightly. Just Al stood 3 feet away, wearing running clothes, expensive ones, she noticed now, looking like he had just happened to jog through the market on a Saturday morning, looking like anything except a man who had planned to be here. "Al," she said, the word escaping before she could stop it. "What are you... hi, this is... what a coincidence." "Is it?" His smile was cautious, uncertain. "I jog here sometimes. Saturday mornings. Saw your booth and thought I would say hello. If that is okay. If it is not okay, I can..." "It is okay." She found herself smiling back, genuinely. "It is nice. This is my mother, Kate. And you remember Noah from last night? Well, I mentioned him. You did not actually meet him." "I did not actually meet anyone last night," Al said, and something in his tone suggested layers she could not quite pass. "But I'm glad to meet you both now." Properly. Kate studied him with the intensity of mothers everywhere who had watched their daughters suffer. "You are the Uber driver." "Mom," Lena protested. "I am," Al confirmed, meeting Kate's gaze directly, "though I prefer to think of myself as a listener who occasionally drives people places." Kate's expression softened fractionally. "My daughter said you were kind. In this world, that matters more than people think." Noah appeared then, clutching one of his drawings. "Do you want to buy art? I made this dinosaur, and he is very fierce. But also he is sad because all his friends are extinct. It is $5. Al examined the drawing with serious attention. "This is extraordinary work. The detail in the scales, the emotion in the eyes. I can see that he is both fierce and sad. That is rare, to capture both at once." "Do you really think so?" Noah's face lit up. "Or are you just being nice because adults are supposed to be nice to kids?" "I really think so. And I would like to buy it, if you will sell it to me. But I only have a $20 bill. Do you have change?" "I do not have change," Noah said seriously. "But you can have 4 more drawings to make it fair. That sounds like excellent business." Al handed over the 20, and Noah carefully selected 4 more drawings, explaining each one in detail. Lena watched this interaction, feeling something dangerous bloom in her chest, hope, or something like it. This man, this strange, kind man, was taking time on a Saturday morning to make her son feel important, to make his art matter. "Are you here every Saturday?" Al asked, straightening from his crouch beside Noah. "Most Saturdays, weather permitting." "Why?" "Because I jog most Saturdays, and I might need more art for my walls. If that is okay, if that is not weird." "That is not weird," Lena heard herself say. That is actually really nice." They stood there in the morning sunshine, the farmer's market flowing around them, a strange little island of connection in the chaos of the weekend. Kate watched them both with an expression Lena could not quite read. "I should let you work," Al finally said, "but it was good to see you, to properly meet you all." "Al," Lena called as he turned to leave. He stopped, turned back. "Why did you really come here today?" "The truth." He considered the question seriously, and she appreciated that he did not immediately offer a glib answer. "Because last night, I felt like I helped someone. Really helped. Not just went through motions, and I wanted to make sure you were okay. That is the truth. Is that strange? In this world." She echoed Rosa's words from yesterday. "Kindness from anyone is strange, but it is good strange. Come back next Saturday." "If you want." "I want," he said simply. Then he smiled, adjusted his earbuds, and jogged away into the morning crowd. Noah tugged on her sleeve. "Mom, is Al going to be your friend?" "Maybe, sweetheart, maybe. I hope so. He really looked at my drawings. Like, really looked. Most grown-ups just pretend." "I know, baby. I noticed that too." Kate said nothing, but Lena felt her mother's concern like a weight. Later, after Noah had wandered off to examine a nearby booth selling crystals, Kate spoke quietly. "Be careful, sweetheart. It is just a man who bought some pastries and some drawings. Nothing to be careful about. It is a man who makes you smile. That is something to be careful about. You have not smiled like that since." Kate trailed off. "Since Marcus. Since before the lies were revealed. Since before trust became a luxury Lena could not afford." "I know," Lena whispered, "I know." But that did not stop her from thinking about him for the rest of the day. Did not stop her from hoping he would come back next Saturday. Did not stop the dangerous, terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, good men still existed in the world, and that maybe she deserved to know one. The following Saturday arrived wrapped in autumn gold, the kind of perfect October morning that made Chicagoans forget that winter waited just around the corner. Lena set up her booth with extra care, then immediately felt foolish for doing so. She was not primping for a man. She was arranging her professional display. There was a difference. "You are fussing," Rosa observed. She had brought the twins today, and they were helping Noah arrange his art display. "You never fuss. You are a precise and efficient setup person, not a fussing person." "I am not fussing. I am optimizing." "You are hoping he shows up again." "I am not." "Okay, maybe I am a little bit hoping." Lena straightened a stack of napkins for the third time. "Is that terrible?" "I know it is terrible. I barely know him. He is an Uber driver who bought some drawings and some pastries. That is not a foundation for anything. It is a foundation for hope," Rosa said gently. "And you have been running on empty for so long, Amor. Maybe it is okay to hope a little." But 9 o'clock came and went. 9:30, 10. The market filled with its usual Saturday crowd, and Lena sold pastries, smiled at customers, helped Noah make change, all while telling herself she was not disappointed. He had probably just been being nice. One encounter did not create an obligation. She had been foolish to expect. "Sorry I am late." Al appeared, slightly breathless, wearing different running clothes but the same uncertain smile. "I had a situation, but I am here, if that is still okay." Relief flooded through her, surprising in its intensity. "It is okay. More than okay. I'm glad you came." They fell into easy conversation while he examined her pastries, asking questions about the recipes, the ingredients, the techniques. He bought almost everything she had left, far more than any normal person would buy, and when she tried to give him a discount, he refused. "These are worth every penny," he insisted. "More than, do you ever think about opening your own place? These are too good for farmers' markets." Lena laughed, but it came out bitter. "Opening my own place requires money I do not have, credit I ruined during my divorce, and confidence I lost somewhere along the way. So no, I do not think about it. Well, I think about it all the time, actually. I just do not think it is possible. What if it was? What would it look like? Why does it matter?" "Because dreams matter," he said simply. "Even impossible ones. Maybe especially impossible ones." So she told him. About the bakery she imagined, small and warm, filled with her grandmother's recipes. About the name she had already chosen, the Honest Crumb, because her grandmother had believed that honesty existed even in small things. That you could tell the character of a baker by a single bite of bread. "The Honest Crumb," Al repeated softly. "That is beautiful. That is really beautiful." Something in his voice made her look at him more closely. His expression had shifted, become complicated, almost pained. "Are you okay?" "Yes." "No, I am fine." He shook himself slightly. I think that would be an amazing bakery, and I hope someday you get to build it." Noah interrupted then, dragging Al over to see his latest drawings. Lena watched them together, this kind stranger and her son, and felt her carefully constructed walls begin to crack. "He is good with Noah," Rosa murmured, appearing beside her. "That is rare. Most men see a single mother and run. He does not know I'm single." "Yes, he does. You are not wearing a ring. Noah calls you Mom, not us, and you work on Saturdays. He knows, and he is still here." They spent an hour like that, the adults talking while Noah showed off his artwork. "Al bought more drawings for my apartment walls," he explained, and asked intelligent questions about Noah's dinosaur obsession. "My dad died," Noah said suddenly, with the brutal honesty of children who had not yet learned that some truths made adults uncomfortable. "Do you have a dad?" "Noah," Lena started, but Al held up a hand. "I did have a dad," he told Noah seriously. "He died too. It was hard. I miss him sometimes." "Does it get less sad?" "It gets different sad. You learn to carry it better. And you remember the good parts, instead of just missing them." Noah considered this, then nodded solemnly. "That is good. I am trying to remember good parts. It is hard because there were a lot of bad parts at the end." "That is very brave of you." Al's voice had gone quiet. "Remembering good parts when there were bad parts, that takes courage." Lena felt her throat tighten. This man, this stranger who was becoming less strange by the moment, saw her son, really saw him, understood that Noah carried his own complicated grief, his own tangled feelings about a father who had been both present and absent long before he died. When the market began winding down at 2, Al helped them pack up. Kate had left earlier with the twins, leaving just the three of them. "Can I buy you lunch?" Al asked as they loaded the last box into Lena's car. "Both of you. There is a diner nearby. Nothing fancy. Just, I am not ready to say goodbye yet. If that is okay." Lena looked at Noah, who was nodding enthusiastically, looked at this man who had shown up 2 Saturdays in a row, looked at the hope she had been trying so hard not to feel. "That is okay," she said. "That is more than okay." They walked 3 blocks to a classic Chicago diner, all chrome and red vinyl. Noah ordered chocolate chip pancakes even though it was afternoon. Al ordered a burger. Lena got coffee and French toast and watched them interact over laminated menus. "Do you do this a lot?" she asked. "Buy strangers lunch?" "No, never. Actually, you are my first." He paused. "That sounds strange, does it not? But it is true. I do not usually connect with people. I keep things professional. But you two, there is something real here. Something I did not know I was missing." "We are not a charity case," Lena said quietly. "I need you to understand that. We are not broken things you get to fix. I do not think you are broken. I think you are brave. There is a difference." The words settled between them like a gift. When was the last time someone had called her brave instead of struggling, strong instead of stubborn? They stayed in that diner for 3 hours. Noah colored on his paper menu. Al told stories that made them laugh, carefully constructed stories, Lena noticed, that revealed little about his actual life but showcased his humor, his intelligence, his kindness. She told him more about her grandmother, about learning to bake at 5 years old, about the dream that refused to die, no matter how impossible it seemed. When they finally left, the October sun was slanting low, painting the city in amber and gold. "Same time next week?" Al asked, hands in his pockets, expression hopeful and uncertain. "Same time next week," Lena confirmed. She watched him walk away, then felt Noah slip his hand into hers. "I like him, Mom. He does not pretend. He is real." "Yes, sweetheart, I think he is." But that night, alone in her kitchen after Noah had gone to bed, Lena stared at her phone and let doubt creep in. She knew nothing about this man. Just Al. What was his last name? Where did he live? Why was an Uber driver free on Saturday mornings? Why did his running clothes look so expensive? Why did he carry cash in large denominations? She opened her browser, typed Al Uber driver Chicago, felt foolish, and closed it. She was being paranoid. Not everyone was Marcus. Not every kindness concealed a lie. But her ex-husband had taught her a painful lesson. Trust had to be earned, not assumed. And she barely knew this man, no matter how much she wanted to. Still, when Saturday came again, she found herself at the farmer's market, setting up her booth with that same careful attention, hoping, despite everything, hoping. And when Al appeared at 9:15, carrying 2 coffees and wearing that uncertain smile, something in her chest loosened. "I brought coffee this time," he said. "Black, 2 sugars." I remembered. He remembered. Such a small thing. "Why did it feel so significant?" "Thank you," she said, taking the cup. "For remembering, for coming back, for—" "You do not have to thank me for showing up. That is bare minimum human behavior." "You would be surprised," she said quietly. "Showing up is rarer than you think." They fell into a new pattern after that. Saturdays at the market, followed by lunch at the diner. Al asking questions about her life, her dreams, her son. Lena carefully not asking too many questions in return, sensing that he guarded his privacy, respecting that everyone had walls. But she noticed things. The way he never mentioned friends or family. The way he sometimes seemed surprised by normal things, like the price of groceries or the complexity of public transportation. The way he watched her work with an intensity that suggested he was memorizing her, learning her, holding on to moments like they might disappear. After the 3rd Saturday, Rosa pulled her aside. "You need to be careful, amor. Everyone keeps telling me to be careful. I am being careful." "Are you?" "Because you are looking at him like he hung the moon, and I am terrified for you. We know nothing about this man, except that he is kind and he has money to spend on overpriced pastries and dinosaur drawings." "I thought you said hope was good." "Hope is good. Blind hope is dangerous." Rosa gripped her hands. "I just do not want to see you hurt again. Promise me you will not rush into this. Promise me you will protect yourself and Noah." "I promise," Lena said. But even as she spoke the words, she felt them slipping away like water through her fingers. Because the truth was, she was already falling, already imagining a future where this kind, strange man might be part of her life. Already forgetting the lessons Marcus had burned into her heart about trusting too much, too fast. Already making the same mistakes she had sworn never to make again. "Tell me about your marriage." Al's question came during their 4th lunch together, surprising in its directness. "If you want to, if that is not too personal." Lena set down her coffee cup carefully. They sat in their usual booth, Noah across the diner playing a video game on a borrowed tablet. The lunch rush had passed, leaving them in a bubble of relative quiet. "Why do you want to know?" "Because you mentioned it that first night, and I can see it still hurts, and I want to understand what made you the person you are." She studied him across the table. 4 weeks of Saturdays had created a strange intimacy between them, built on shared meals and careful conversations. She knew he liked his coffee black, that he found joy in Noah's endless questions, that he listened more than he spoke. But she still knew almost nothing concrete about his life. Maybe that should bother her more than it did. "His name was Marcus," she began slowly. "We married young. I was 23, fresh out of culinary school, convinced I knew everything about love and life. He was charming, funny, ambitious, or so I thought." She paused, old pain stirring. Turns out, ambitious was code for delusional. Charming was code for liar. What did he lie about? Everything. The word came out harder than she intended. His job was fake. He had been fired 2 years before I found out. But he got up every morning, put on a suit, and went somewhere. His friends were fake, people he paid to show up at parties to make him look successful. His family money was fake. There was no inheritance, just debt. Mountains of debt. Al's expression had shifted, become something Lena could not quite read. Pain, guilt, understanding. For 5 years, I lived in a fantasy world he constructed, she continued. And the worst part, I believed it because I wanted to believe it, because questioning meant admitting I had made a terrible mistake. Because I was pregnant with Noah, and pregnant women are supposed to trust their husbands, right? That was not your fault, was it not? I had signs, things that did not add up, but I chose to ignore them. I chose to believe the lies, because the truth was too frightening. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. When it all came apart, when I finally found the evidence I could not ignore, I felt like I had been living with a stranger. The man I loved never existed. Marcus was a performance, and I was his most dedicated audience. Is that why... Al hesitated. Is that why you work so hard now? Why you will not accept help? I work hard because I have to, but also because I need to prove to myself that I can trust my own judgment, that I can build something real, something solid, something that will not crumble the moment I look away. They sat in silence for a moment. Across the diner, Noah laughed at something on his screen, oblivious to the weight of adult conversation. "What about you?" Lena asked. "You know my darkest secrets now. Fair is fair." Al's jaw tightened. "What do you want to know?" "Anything, everything. You are this mystery man who shows up on Saturdays and seems content to just be here. Don't you have family, friends, a life that doesn't involve eating diner food with a struggling single mother?" "I have a life," he said carefully. "It is just not a life I particularly enjoy. You, though, being with you and Noah, this feels real in a way nothing else does." "That is not an answer." "I know." He met her eyes directly. "I'm sorry. I'm not being deliberately mysterious. I'm trying to figure out how to be honest about things I have never been honest about." "That is terrifying," Lena said softly, "as a concept." "It is. But maybe you understand that better than most people would. Maybe that is why I can talk to you." Something shifted between them in that moment. A deepening, a recognition. Two people carrying secrets, trying to decide how much truth they could afford to share. "I should tell you something," Lena said. "I am terrible at relationships. Obviously, I chose wrong once, spectacularly wrong, and I am terrified of doing it again. So if this, whatever this is, if it is going to be something, I need honesty. Brutal, uncomfortable, complete honesty, even if it hurts, especially if it hurts." "Honesty," Al repeated, and something flickered across his face. "Always, always. I would rather be hurt by truth than comforted by a lie. That is not negotiable." He nodded slowly. That is a good rule, an important rule. So can you do that? Can you be honest with me?" The pause before he answered felt like forever. "Yes," he finally said, "I can be honest with you." But even as Lena smiled, relief flooding through her, she missed the way his hands clenched under the table, missed the guilt written in every line of his body, missed the moment he chose, once again, to protect his lie instead of speaking his truth. They finished lunch and walked back to where her car was parked. The afternoon had turned cold, autumn asserting itself. Noah ran ahead, chasing fallen leaves, while Lena and Al walked in comfortable silence. "My parents want to meet you," she said suddenly. "My father, specifically. He is very protective, very skeptical of men in general, and men who are nice to his daughter in particular." "That is fair. I would be skeptical too, in his position. So you will come to dinner next Friday?" Al stopped walking. "You want me to meet your parents? Is that too much? I am sorry, I should not have—" "No, it is not too much. I am honored, really honored. He ran a hand through his hair. I just want to make sure I am worthy of that trust. You have been showing up for a month. That is more than most men do. You are worthy. If only she knew how unworthy he felt. How every Saturday, Alistair Finch drove his modest sedan to the farmer's market, parked 2 blocks away, and became Al for a few precious hours. How he had started scheduling his board meetings around these Saturdays, delegating more than he ever had, ignoring his sister's increasingly concerned phone calls from London. How he lay awake nights, trying to figure out how to tell this woman the truth without losing her, knowing with every passing day that the truth became more impossible to speak. Friday dinner, he said, I will be there. They stood in the autumn sunshine, and Lena reached out to touch his arm. Just a brief touch, but it burned through his jacket like fire. Thank you, she said, for being real with me. It means everything. Real. He was the least real person she had ever met, and she had no idea. You are welcome, Alistair whispered, hating himself. Thank you for trusting me. As he drove home later, back to his penthouse, his company, his real life, he called Thomas. I need you to do something, he said. Research the fastest way to transfer a business, anonymously, and find the best commercial real estate attorney in Chicago. Someone who can handle complex transactions without asking questions. What are you planning? Thomas asked carefully. I am planning to give someone their dream, and then I am planning to confess, in that order. Mr. Finch, I know what you are going to say. I know this is wrong. I know I should have told her from the beginning, but I did not. And now I'm in so deep that the truth will destroy everything. So I am going to make it right first. I'm going to give her the bakery, enough money to open it successfully, and then I am going to tell her who I really am. She can hate me, but at least her dream will be real. You cannot buy forgiveness. I know, but maybe I can prove that my feelings are real, even if everything else was a lie. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. This will not end well. I know that too. But I am going to try anyway, because the alternative, walking away, disappearing, protecting himself at her expense, was impossible now. He had fallen in love with Lena Petrova and her fierce, guarded heart, had fallen in love with her son and his serious grey eyes, had fallen in love with the dream of being someone worthy of them. And if confessing the truth meant losing them, at least they would have the bakery. At least she would have the means to build the life she deserved. It was the best he could do with the mess he had created, even if it was nowhere near enough. Friday evening arrived with the weight of judgment. Alistair stood outside the Morrison home in Naperville, a modest 2-story house with a garden that spoke of careful tending and limited resources. His hands, accustomed to signing million-dollar contracts, trembled slightly as he rang the doorbell. He wore jeans and a simple button-down shirt, clothes he had purchased specifically for this life as Al, this parallel existence where he was just a man trying to earn a woman's trust. The irony burned. He was dressing down to play a role, which meant his entire relationship with Lena was a performance, which meant the door opened. Richard Morrison stood there, 65 years old, and built like a man who had worked with his hands for 4 decades. His eyes, the same hazel as his daughter's, assessed Alistair with uncomfortable precision. You must be Al. Sir, thank you for inviting me into your home. Richard stepped aside but did not offer his hand. Not yet. That would have to be earned. The house smelled like roasted chicken and rosemary, like home in a way Alistair's penthouse never had. Kate emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron, her smile warmer than her husband's expression. Al, welcome. Lena is upstairs helping Noah with his bath. They will be down shortly. Please, sit. Can I get you something to drink? Water would be wonderful, thank you. He settled onto the living room couch, acutely aware of Richard taking the armchair directly across from him, positioning himself like a general preparing for interrogation. Family photos covered every surface. Lena as a child, gap-toothed and grinning. Lena in her culinary school graduation gown. Lena holding newborn Noah, her face radiant despite the shadows of exhaustion. No photos of Marcus. He had been edited out, erased from the family narrative. "So," Richard began without preamble, "you drive for Uber?" "I do. Full-time?" "Yes, sir. And that pays enough to support yourself. In Chicago. That is an expensive city for a single man." Alistair had prepared for these questions, had constructed careful half-truths. "I live modestly. I have some savings from previous work. I do not need much." "What kind of previous work?" "Business. Corporate. It was not for me." "Too many people pretending to be something they were not." Richard's expression shifted slightly, not quite approval, but perhaps less suspicion. "My daughter has been through hell. You know that." "I know. Her ex-husband was a liar, a con man. He took everything from her, money, trust, 5 years of her life. When he died, she mourned the man she thought she had married, not the man he actually was. Do you understand what that does to a person, to grieve someone who never existed? I can imagine it would be devastating." "Can you?" Richard leaned forward. "Because I am sitting here looking at a man who showed up in my daughter's life out of nowhere. A man who has time to spend Saturday mornings at farmers' markets. A man who buys overpriced pastries and expensive drawings from a 7-year-old boy. And I am wondering what your angle is." "Dad." Lena's voice came from the stairway. She descended with Noah beside her, both freshly bathed, her hair damp and pulled back. "Can you not interrogate him before he has even had dinner?" "I am simply getting to know him. You are treating him like a suspect." She crossed to Alistair, touched his shoulder briefly. The contact sent electricity through him. "I am sorry. My father thinks everyone has ulterior motives. In my experience," Richard said quietly, "most people do." Dinner unfolded with careful civility. Kate served chicken and roasted vegetables, homemade bread, apple pie for dessert. Noah chattered about school, about his latest dinosaur book, about the planet diorama he was building. Alistair listened, asked questions, felt Richard's gaze on him like a searchlight. "You are good with children," Kate observed. "Do you have nieces or nephews?" "A sister, no children." "True. Maggie and Charles had chosen to remain childless. But I like kids. They are honest. They say what they mean." "Not all adults are dishonest," Richard said pointedly. "No, sir, but enough are that honesty feels rare, valuable. Lena tells us you are a good listener, that you showed up when she needed someone to hear her. I did not do anything special. I was there." "Being there is special," Kate said gently. "Especially these days. Everyone is so busy, so distracted. Actually, paying attention to another human being, that is a gift." After dinner, while Kate and Lena cleaned up despite Alistair's offers to help, Richard invited him outside to the back porch. The November evening had turned cold, the garden settling into dormancy for winter. "I need to ask you something," Richard said, not looking at him. "And I need you to be honest." "Of course. Are you married? Separated? Running from something?" "No, sir. To all of those questions, I am single, not running, just trying to be better than I have been." Richard finally looked at him. "Better how?" "I spent a lot of years being isolated, closed off, not connecting with anyone real. And then I met your daughter, and she reminded me what it feels like to be human, to matter to someone, not for what I can do for them, but just for showing up, for being present. That is a lot of weight to put on someone you barely know." "I know. I am not trying to make her responsible for my happiness. I am just grateful she gave me a chance to remember mine." They stood in silence for a moment. Inside, through the window, Alistair could see Lena laughing at something Kate said, her whole face transforming with joy. She does not laugh like that often, Richard said quietly. Not since Marcus you make her laugh. She makes me laugh too. She makes me feel like I can be honest about who I am or who I want to be. Richard turned to face him fully. Here is what I'm going to tell you, Al. My daughter is the strongest person I know. She survived a liar, survived a death, survived bankruptcy. She rebuilt herself from nothing while raising a son alone. She does not need you to save her. She does not need you to fix her. If you are going to be in her life, you need to understand that. I do understand that. Do you? Because a lot of men see a struggling single mother and think they can be the hero. But Lena does not need a hero. She needs a partner, someone who will stand beside her, not in front of her. Someone who respects that she is building her own life, her own dream, and who supports that without trying to control it. That is what I want to be, a partner, not a savior. Good! Richard extended his hand finally. Then we understand each other. Alistair shook his hand, felt the calluses, the strength. This was a man who had built his life through honest work, who had raised a daughter to do the same. And here Alistair stood, lying to all of them, betraying the very values they held sacred. The weight of it nearly crushed him. When he left 2 hours later, Lena walked him to his car. The neighborhood was quiet, streetlights casting pools of gold on the sidewalk. You survived, she said. My father can be intense. He loves you. That is not intense. That is what it should be. He gave you his approval. He shook your hand. That is huge, Al. He has not approved of anyone in my life since Marcus. I am honored by his trust. The words felt like broken glass in his throat. I trust you too. She stepped closer. I know we have not known each other long. I know this is fast, but I feel safe with you. For the first time since my marriage ended, I feel like I can breathe around a man. Like I do not have to perform or pretend or guard every word. You make me feel seen. Lena, he wanted to confess. Wanted to fall to his knees and beg forgiveness for the web of lies he had spun. But the words stuck, tangled in cowardice and fear. I am falling for you, she whispered. I did not want to. I fought it. But I am falling anyway. And I need you to know that. I need you to tell me if that is okay, if you feel the same, or if I am alone in this. You are not alone. His voice broke. God, Lena, you are not alone. I'm falling too. I've been falling since that first night in the rain. She kissed him then, soft, tentative, terrifying in its tenderness. He kissed her back, tasting hope and trust and everything he did not deserve. Stay, she whispered against his lips. Not here, my parents would kill me. But come over tomorrow, Sunday, we will make breakfast. You, me, Noah, just stay in my life. Please. I will stay, he promised. As long as you will have me. He drove away, watching her in his rearview mirror, standing under the streetlight, waving goodbye. Beautiful, trusting, building her heart on the foundation of his lies. And Alistair knew, with terrible certainty, that when the truth came out, and it would come out, the destruction would be complete. Monday morning arrived, wrapped in corporate obligation. Alistair sat in the conference room on the 40th floor of his building, surrounded by 12 board members whose collective net worth exceeded most small nations' GDP. They discussed quarterly earnings, market projections, acquisition opportunities. He should have been engaged, focused. Instead, his mind kept drifting to yesterday's breakfast. Lena had made pancakes. Noah had requested dinosaur shapes. Alistair had attempted to help, creating something that looked more like an asteroid than a triceratops. They had laughed. Lena had gotten flour in her hair. Noah had declared him pretty good at breakfast, which felt like the highest praise he had ever received. Mr. Finch, Douglas Whitmore's voice cut through his reverie. Your thoughts on the Singapore expansion? Alistair refocused with effort. I think we should proceed cautiously. The market indicators are promising, but cautiously. Another board member, Patricia Chen, frowned. Since when do you advocate caution? You built this company on aggressive expansion. Since I started caring about something other than profit margins. Since I met someone who reminded me that numbers on a spreadsheet represent real lives, real dreams, real consequences. The market is volatile, he said instead. I am suggesting we wait until Q2 before committing resources. You have been distracted lately, Douglas observed, missed the last 2 conference calls, delegated the Morrison account to Henderson. Is everything all right? Everything is fine. I am simply reassessing priorities. Your priority should be this company. Patricia's tone sharpened. Your father built Finch Capital from nothing. You have a responsibility to his legacy. I'm aware of my responsibilities. Are you? Because from where I sit, you seem to be checking out. If there is something affecting your judgment, we need to know. Alistair looked at the faces around the table. These people knew him as Alistair Finch, billionaire, decisive leader, man who never hesitated, never doubted, never let personal concerns interfere with business. They would not understand that he was spending his Saturdays selling pastries at a farmer's market, that he had fallen in love with a single mother who thought he drove for Uber, that he was living a double life that exhausted him more than any board meeting ever had. My judgment is fine, he said firmly. Meeting adjourned. He escaped to his office, closed the door, and stood at the window overlooking Lake Michigan. From this height, the city looked like a game board. Tiny cars, tiny people, tiny lives, all moving in patterns he could analyze and predict. Except now, one of those tiny lives had become the center of his universe, and he had no idea how to reconcile his 2 worlds. His phone buzzed. A text from Lena. Noah drew you as a superhero today. Apparently your superpower is making really good dinosaur pancakes. Just thought you should know you are officially awesome. He smiled despite everything. Texted back, best superpower ever. Tell him I am honored. Her response came quickly. Working late tonight. Catering job. Wish me luck. Good luck. You will be amazing. You always are. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, thank you for existing, Al. That is all, just thank you. He stared at those words until they blurred. Thank you for existing. When was the last time someone had said that to him? When had his existence mattered to anyone beyond what he could provide, invest, or acquire? A knock interrupted his thoughts. His assistant, Jennifer, poked her head in. Your sister is online too. She says it is urgent. Maggie. He had been avoiding her calls for 3 weeks. Tell her I will call her back. I tried that. She said if you do not pick up, she is flying to Chicago tonight. Sighing, Alistair picked up the phone. Hello, Maggie? Finally, his sister's British accent, refined during 15 years in London, carried a sharp edge. I was beginning to think you had been kidnapped, or worse, that you had done something stupid. I am fine. Just busy. Too busy to talk to your only sister. Ali, what is going on? Thomas is being evasive. Your board is concerned, and you have missed 3 family calls. That is not like you. I am reassessing my life. Oh, God. You met someone, did you not? Silence. You did. You met someone. Ali, that is wonderful. Who is she? How did you meet? When do I get to interrogate her properly? It is complicated, Mags. It always is with you. What makes this one complicated? He could not tell her. Could not admit that he had built a relationship on lies, that he was living a double life, that he had become exactly the kind of person he despised. She does not know who I am, he said finally. What do you mean? She thinks I am someone else, someone normal, not this. He gestured at his office, his view, his empire. Oh, Ali, Maggie's voice softened. What have you done? I am trying to be happy. Is that so wrong? Not wrong, but lying about who you are. That cannot end well. You know that. I know. I am going to tell her. Soon. I need to figure out how. There is no good way to tell someone you have been lying to them. There is only honest and more lies. Please tell me you are choosing honest. I am. I promise. I just need a little more time. Time for what? To dig yourself deeper, to make her fall more in love with a person who does not exist. She exists. Al is me, the real me. The person I am when I'm not performing for board members and investors. When I am with her, I am more myself than I have ever been in this office. Then be yourself honestly. Tell her the truth. Give her the choice. What if she chooses to leave? Then she leaves. But at least it would be her choice, based on truth, not your manipulation. The words hit like physical blows. Manipulation. That was what this was. He had manipulated Lena into trusting him, into opening her heart, into building a future on foundations made of sand. I have to go, he said. Board meeting. Ali, I will call you later. I promise. He hung up before she could argue further, before her truth could strip away his last defenses. That evening, he stood in front of his closet, staring at two lives hanging on different rails. On the left, his suits, Armani, Brioni, Tom Ford, the uniform of Alistair Finch, billionaire. On the right, the modest clothes he wore as Al, jeans, simple shirts, the kind of wardrobe a man without $4.2 billion might own. He chose the right side, always the right side now, because when he was with Lena, he did not want to be Alistair. He wanted to be Al, the man who was falling in love with a woman brave enough to rebuild her life from ruins, the man who made dinosaur pancakes and listened to 7-year-old boys explain the difference between velociraptors and Utah raptors. The man who mattered not for his bank account but for his presence. That man was worth being, even if he was built on lies, even if he could not survive the truth. Tell me about the bakery. They sat in Lena's small living room, Noah asleep in his bedroom, the November night pressing dark against the windows. She had invited Alistair over after her catering job, and he had come without hesitation, drawn to her like gravity. What do you want to know? She curled into the corner of her second-hand couch, wrapped in an oversized sweater, exhaustion written in every line of her body. Everything. If money was not an obstacle, if you could create exactly what you wanted, what would it look like? She smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. Why torture myself with impossible dreams? Because dreams matter, even impossible ones. Especially impossible ones, because he was about to make this one possible, and then confess, and then lose her forever. Okay. She closed her eyes, and he could see her visualizing it. Small, maybe 8 tables. Not trying to be fancy, just real. Exposed brick if I could find the right building, vintage display cases, the kind where you can see all the pastries, where choosing becomes part of the experience, my grandmother's recipes, obviously, but also experimenting, fusion, taking traditional Eastern European techniques and combining them with American flavors. The honest crumb, Alistair said softly. The honest crumb, she agreed. Because baking is fundamentally honest work. You cannot lie to dough. It either rises or it does not. The oven does not care about your excuses. You have to show up, do the work right, and trust the process. That is beautiful. That is also expensive. Commercial kitchen equipment, permits, insurance, rent for a decent location, initial inventory, marketing, staff. I ran the numbers once. To do it properly would take about $200,000 minimum. I have saved exactly $17,342 over 4 years. At this rate, Noah will be in college before I can open. What if you could get a loan? With my credit, my bankruptcy is still on my record for 3 more years. No bank will touch me. I looked into small business grants, but there is so much competition, and I do not have a business degree or experience running a restaurant. I'm just a pastry chef with a dream and no collateral. Alistair wanted to tell her right then, wanted to say, I can make this happen. I can give you the building, the equipment, the security to pursue your dream without fear. I can fix this. But that would be Alistair Finch solving problems with money. That would be the billionaire sweeping in to save the day. That was not what she needed, not what she wanted. What if it was not about the money, he asked instead. What if someone believed in you enough to invest, not as charity, as a genuine investment in something valuable? No one invests in impossible dreams, Al. That is why they are called impossible. I would. She opened her eyes, looked at him with an expression he could not quite read. You would invest in my bakery. If I had the means, yes, in a heartbeat, because it is not an impossible dream. It is an achievable goal that just needs the right support. You drive for Uber. Right, I do. I do not have that kind of money. The lie tasted like poison. But someone will see what I see, a talented chef with a unique vision, a strong work ethic, and the determination to succeed. That is a good investment. She studied him for a long moment. You really believe that? I do. You are not a risk, Lena. You are a sure thing. She leaned forward and kissed him, deeper than before, more certain. When she pulled back, her eyes were bright. I do not know what I did to deserve you showing up in my life. Everything and nothing, he thought. You deserved honesty, and I gave you lies. You deserved respect, and I gave you deception. You deserved a man who would stand beside you as an equal, and I gave you a billionaire playing dress-up in your world. I am the lucky one, he said instead. They spent the next hour talking about the bakery in more detail. She showed him sketches she had drawn, recipes she had adapted, mood boards she had created on her phone. Every idea was thoughtful, practical, rooted in research and experience. This was not a fantasy. This was a business plan waiting for opportunity. Would you, she hesitated, would you want to be part of it? Not as an investor, just when I open it. Would you want to be there? Help out, maybe? I know that sounds presumptuous. We have only known each other for 6 weeks, but I keep imagining it, and you are always there in my imagination. I would love that, Alistair said, his heart breaking. Nothing would make me happier than being part of your dream. Because he would be part of it. He would give her the means to build it. He would make sure every detail was perfect. And then he would confess, and she would hate him, and his involvement would end. But at least she would have the bakery. At least her dream would survive, even if their relationship did not. I need to tell you something, she said suddenly, and I need you to really hear me. I am listening. I'm scared of this, of us, of how much I'm starting to care about you. She took his hand. My ex-husband destroyed my ability to trust my own judgment. For 2 years after he died, I did not date, did not even look at men because I was terrified of making the same mistake, of falling for someone who was not what they seemed. Alistair felt his throat close. Every word was a knife. But you are different. You show up. You listen. You care about Noah. You treat me like I matter. Not like I am something to be fixed or saved. And I am choosing to trust that. I am choosing to believe you are who you appear to be. Because if I cannot trust my judgment, if I cannot learn to recognize good people, then Marcus wins. Then I spend the rest of my life alone, afraid, never letting anyone close. Lena, so I am trusting you, Al. I am putting my heart in your hands. And trusting that you will be careful with it, that you will not lie to me, that you will not pretend to be something you are not, that you will respect me enough to be honest, even when honesty is hard. He should confess right then. should tell her everything, his real name, his wealth, the lie that started it all, the way he had been living a double life for 6 weeks, should give her the truth she deserved, even if it meant losing her. But looking into her eyes, seeing the trust and hope and fragile courage it took for her to open her heart again, he could not speak, could not destroy that moment, could not be the second man to betray her. "I will not hurt you," he whispered. "I promise I will not lie to you about who I am." And technically that was true. Al was who he was, the real him, stripped of money and status. Al was the man he wanted to be. Al was honest. Except Al existed only in this parallel world he had created, and the moment it collided with reality, Al would disappear, leaving only Alistair and his unforgivable lies. The Chicago Harvest Food Festival in Grant Park was the kind of event that drew thousands. Local restaurants, food trucks, artisan vendors, all gathered to celebrate the city's culinary diversity. When Lena had been accepted as a vendor 3 months ago, she had cried with joy. This was exposure, this was possibility. Now, standing beside her booth on a perfect October Saturday, she felt nothing but happiness. Al stood beside her, wearing an apron she had made him, the honest crumb, coming soon, and helping serve pastries to the steady stream of customers. Noah darted between tables, his face smeared with powdered sugar, showing everyone his dinosaur drawings. "This is incredible," Al said, watching the line at their booth. "Lena, people love your food." "They do." She could hardly believe it. 200 pastries sold in 3 hours. People coming back for seconds, asking for business cards, wanting to know when the bakery would open. This is really happening. Rosa worked the other side of the booth, her twins helping Noah with art sales. Kate and Richard had set up chairs nearby, watching their daughter shine. Even Sarah had come, her lawyer husband in tow, looking grudgingly impressed. "You should do this full time," a customer said, biting into a rugula. "This is better than anything I have had at fancy bakeries downtown." "That is the plan," Lena replied, grinning. "Opening early next year, if everything works out." "Where?" "Still looking for the right location." Al caught her eye across the booth. They had not discussed it, but she knew he was thinking the same thing she was. This was proof of concept. This was validation that her dream was viable, that she was not fooling herself. By 2 in the afternoon, they had sold out completely. Every pastry, every rugula, every strudel gone. And more than that, they had collected over 300 business cards from people who wanted to be notified when the bakery opened. "We did it," Lena breathed, staring at the empty display cases. "Al, we actually did it." He pulled her into a hug, right there in front of everyone. "You did it. This is your dream, your talent, your hard work. No, we did it. You have been here every Saturday for 2 months. You helped me prep half of these pastries. You have been my partner in this." Partner. The word hit him like a fist. She saw him as a partner, an equal, someone who contributed, not someone who swooped in with a checkbook. "I love you," he said, the words escaping before he could stop them. "I know it is too soon. I know we have not known each other long, but I love you, Lena Petrova. You and your fierce heart and your impossible dreams that are not impossible at all." She stared at him, eyes wide. Around them, the festival continued, but they existed in a bubble of suspended time. "Say something," he whispered. "Please. I love you too." Her voice broke. "I have been afraid to say it, afraid to feel it, but I love you, Al. You make me believe in good people again. You make me believe in possibilities." They kissed while Rosa and Kate cried happy tears, while Noah cheered, while Richard nodded his approval. It was perfect. Too perfect. Which was why Alistair should have known it could not last. "Alistair Finch." The voice cut through the moment like a blade. "Good God, man. I did not expect to see you here." Is this some sort of charity event? Where are the cameras? Alistair froze. Every muscle, every breath, every hope turning to ice. Douglas Whitmore approached with his wife on his arm, both dressed in expensive casual wear, both carrying the kind of entitlement that came from generational wealth. Douglas, board member. Douglas, who had cancelled Lena's catering order. Douglas, who was about to destroy everything. Douglas, Alistair's voice came from somewhere far away. This is not what? Not work. Douglas laughed, oblivious to the catastrophe he was creating. I know you are all about work-life balance lately, but serving pastries at a street festival, that is commitment to the common man. Very admirable. Very PR-friendly. He turned to his wife. Darling, this is Alistair Finch, runs Finch Capital Partners. You remember, we talked about moving some of our portfolio to his firm. Lena had gone completely still beside Alistair. He could feel her confusion turning to realization, could see the exact moment she understood. Finch, she repeated. Alistair Finch. You know each other? Douglas looked delighted. Small world. Did you cater one of his events? He throws quite the galas, couple thousand a plate, if memory serves. Lena pulled out her phone with shaking hands, typed something. Her face went white, then red. Then a terrible empty pail that suggested all colour had drained from the world. You are Alistair Finch, she said quietly. Not a question, a statement of devastating fact. Lena, I can explain. Alistair James Finch, age 45, net worth $4.2 billion, CEO of Finch Capital Partners. She read from her phone like a coroner reading cause of death. Forbes list, eligible bachelor lists, society pages, charity galas. She looked up at him. You are not Al. You are not a driver. You are not anything you said you were. I am Al. That part is real. My feelings are real. Everything between us. Everything between us is a lie. Her voice had gone flat. Shock. He recognized. She was going into shock. Lena, please. You let me trust you. She backed away from him. You heard me talk about Marcus, about how he lied about everything, and you said nothing. You let me tell you about my money problems, my struggles, my impossible dreams, and you said nothing. You sat in my parents' house and let my father interrogate you about your job, your life, your intentions, and you lied to his face. I wanted to tell you. I tried to tell you so many times. But you did not. She was shaking now. Noah had appeared beside her, sensing crisis, grabbing her hand. You did not tell me. You let me fall in love with someone who does not exist. I do exist. Al is me, the real me, without the money, without the company. Just a man who wanted... What? What did you want, Mr. Finch? She spat his real name like a curse. To see how the poor people live, to play pretend, to study us like lab rats. Was I your charity project, your entertainment? No. God, no. I wanted to be seen, to be valued for who I am, not what I own. So you used me. You used my pain, my trauma, my fear of being lied to, and you lied to me anyway. You are not better than Marcus. You are worse. Because at least Marcus had the excuse of desperation. You have everything, and you still lied. People had started filming, phones out, cameras recording, this moment, this destruction, captured for posterity, for entertainment, for viral consumption. Mama! Noah's voice, small and frightened. Why are you crying? What did Al do? His name is not Al, baby. His name is Alistair. And he is not who we thought he was. But he bought my drawings. He made pancakes. He said a lot of things that were not true. Lena picked up Noah, held him tight, turned to Alistair with eyes full of devastation. You need to leave, now. And you need to never contact me again. Never call, never text, never show up at the farmer's market or my parents' house or anywhere I exist. Do you understand? Lena, please, just let me. Do you understand? She was screaming now, all that controlled pain exploding outward. You destroyed me. You made me trust again, and you destroyed me. Get out of my life. Rosa stepped forward, putting herself between Lena and Alistair. Richard did the same. A wall of protection around the woman Alistair loved, defending her from the man who had betrayed her. Alistair stood there, in his stupid apron, surrounded by the ruins of his own making. He opened his mouth, but no words came. What could he say? How could he explain that he had chosen cowardice over courage every single day for 2 months, that he had fallen in love with her and still chosen his comfort over her right to the truth? He could not explain it. He could only live with it. He removed the apron carefully, folded it, set it on the booth table, looked at Lena one last time, her face wet with tears, Noah clinging to her, her whole world shattered by his lies. "I am sorry," he whispered. "For whatever it is worth, I'm so sorry." "It is worth nothing," she replied. "Your apology, your money, your feelings. Nothing. You are nothing to me now." He walked away through the crowd, people parting for him, phones still recording. Behind him, he heard Noah crying, heard Lena trying to comfort her son while falling apart herself, heard Rosa's furious voice, "How could you? How could anyone be so cruel?" And Alistair had no answer, because he had asked himself that same question every day for 2 months, and he had chosen cruelty anyway. Had chosen his own desire for connection over her right to choose him, or not, based on truth. He got to his car, sat in the driver's seat, and stared at his hands. These hands had built an empire. These hands had signed deals worth billions. These hands had held Lena while she trusted him with her broken heart. These hands had destroyed the best thing he had ever found. His phone buzzed. 57 text messages, 23 missed calls. The video was already going viral. Billionaire caught playing house with single mom. Secret romance exposed. When keeping it real goes wrong. He did not read any of them. He just sat in his car in Grant Park, surrounded by the sounds of the festival continuing without him, and let himself feel the full weight of what he had done. He had hurt her, deliberately, selfishly, repeatedly hurt her, and no amount of money, no grand gesture, no apology could undo that. The only thing he could do now was stay away. Let her heal, let her rebuild, let her find someone who would give her the honesty she deserved from the beginning. Let her go, even though it was killing him to do it. The video had 37 million views by Monday morning. Lena knew, because Rosa checked obsessively, as if monitoring the spread of infection. Billionaire's secret romance exposed. When rich men play poor. Single mom duped by fortune. Lena had not watched it, could not watch it. The memory was vivid enough without seeing herself scream at Alistair in front of thousands of people, without witnessing Noah's confusion, without reliving the moment her carefully reconstructed world shattered into smaller pieces than before. She called in sick to the hotel, could not face the kitchen, the questions, the pity. Instead, she stayed in bed while Noah went to school, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment with Alistair, searching for the signs she had missed. They must have been there. She prided herself on detecting lies, on never being fooled again. Yet she had been fooled completely. "You need to eat." Rosa sat on the edge of her bed, holding a plate of toast Lena had no interest in. "Amor, you have not eaten in 2 days. I am not hungry. That is grief talking, not your stomach. Please, just a few bites." Lena sat up with effort. Everything hurt, her head, her chest, her soul. "How did I not see it, Rosa? How did I look at him and not know? Because he lied well, because you wanted to believe good people existed, because you are human and humans make mistakes. I cannot afford mistakes, not with Noah. What did I teach my son? That women let men lie to them, that trust is for fools. You taught him that his mother is brave enough to risk her heart. That is not a bad lesson. It is a terrible lesson. Look where it got me." The doorbell rang. Rosa went to answer it, returned with an envelope. "It was on your doorstep. No delivery person, just this." Inside, a set of keys, a deed to a property on the south side. An address Lena recognized, a corner she had walked past 100 times, dreaming, the perfect location for a bakery, and a note in handwriting she now recognized. "For your dream, no strings, no contact, just what you have always deserved." Something inside her snapped. She was on her feet, keys in hand, marching to the door before Rosa could stop her. She drove to his building. The internet had helpfully provided his address, along with 1,000 other details about Alistair Finch, and stood in the lobby while a security guard eyed her warily. "I need to see Alistair Finch." "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I have these." She held up the keys, the deed, "and I need to return them. Now." The guard made a call. 5 minutes later, a man in his 50s appeared. "Miss Petrova, I'm Thomas Chen, Mr. Finch's assistant. He is not available, but I do not want his money. I do not want his guilt offerings. I want you to tell him that if he thinks he can buy his way out of what he did, he is even more delusional than my ex-husband." She shoved the envelope into Thomas's hands. "I will build my own dream, the honest way, without his help, without his interference. Do you understand?" Thomas studied her with an expression that might have been respect. "I understand. I will give him your message." "Good." She turned to leave, then stopped. "And tell him that he was right about one thing. The Honest Crumb is a good name, because honesty matters, and he has no idea what that word means." She made it to her car before the tears came. Not sad tears, angry tears, furious, righteous tears that burned like acid. He thought he could fix this with real estate, thought he could ease his guilt with grand gestures, thought she was someone who could be bought, pacified, silenced with the right donation. He had learned nothing, understood nothing. He still saw money as the solution when money was never the problem. The problem was trust, was honesty, was the fundamental respect of treating another human being as worthy of truth. That night, after Noah was asleep, Lena opened her laptop, searched for commercial properties in her price range, found one, a disaster of a building, formerly a corner store, now empty and decaying. Broken windows, water damage, a roof that probably leaked. The rent was barely affordable. The repairs would be astronomical. It was perfect. She called the landlord the next morning, signed a year lease that afternoon, used every penny of her $17,000 for first month, last month, security deposit, and basic liability insurance. Then she stood in the middle of her empty, broken building and made herself a promise. She would do this alone, would prove that she needed no one's charity, no one's rescue, no one's lies dressed up as help. She would build the honest crumb with her own hands, or she would fail trying. But either way, it would be hers. Honestly, completely, undeniably hers. Alistair had not left his penthouse in 4 days. Thomas brought food he did not eat. His phone rang constantly. Board members, investors, his sister, reporters wanting comments on the viral romance scandal. He answered none of them. Instead, he sat in his home office, surrounded by printouts of the property he had purchased for Lena, the perfect building, fully renovated, commercial kitchen installed. Everything she needed, ready to go, and she had thrown it back in his face, as she should have. "You cannot hide forever." Maggie's voice came through his laptop. She had finally gotten him to answer a video call by threatening to fly to Chicago and break down his door. "Ali, talk to me. What is there to say? I destroyed the only real thing in my life because I was a coward." "Yes, you were. Now what are you going to do about it?" "There is nothing to do." She made herself clear. "She wants nothing from me. No contact, no money, no apologies, nothing. Good. He looked up sharply. Good. Yes, good. Because maybe now you will stop trying to solve this with your wallet and start thinking about what she actually needs. She needs to never see me again. That is what she said. That is what her pain said. But what does her heart need? I have no idea. Then you are not thinking hard enough. Maggie leaned closer to her camera. Let me tell you a story about Dad. When he was building the company, he lost everything in the market crash of 2000. Everything. We were about to lose the house. Mum was terrified. And do you know what he did? He rebuilt. He got a job as a carpenter. Went back to what he knew before business school. Worked construction for 2 years. Saved every penny. Learned humility. He told me once that losing everything was the best thing that ever happened to him because it reminded him that his worth was not his bank account. It was his hands, his skill, his willingness to show up and do honest work. Alistair remembered his father coming home exhausted, hands rough with calluses, but somehow lighter than he had been in the corporate years. Remembered learning to build with him in the garage workshop, the smell of sawdust and wood stain. You are saying I should, what? Get a job. I am saying you should remember who you were before the money, before the board meetings and the investments and the private jets. Who were you when you built things, instead of just buying them? He thought about Saturday mornings at the farmer's market, helping Lena arrange pastries, making dinosaur pancakes, working beside her at the festival. Those had been the happiest moments of his adult life. Not because he was pretending to be poor, but because he was being useful, because his hands created value, not just his bank account. She has a building, Thomas said from the doorway. He had been listening, apparently. A disaster of a building on the south side. Former corner store. She signed the lease yesterday. How do you know this? Because I have been watching. Not creeping, he added quickly, just keeping informed, in case you decided to do something stupid. Define stupid. Showing up uninvited, sending more money, hiring people to renovate it for her. Any of the things you are currently thinking about doing. Alistair stood, walked to his window. The city stretched below him, vast and indifferent. Somewhere in that sprawl, Lena was standing in a broken building, preparing to rebuild her life. Without him. As she should. But what if he could help? Not as Alistair Finch, billionaire, not by throwing money at the problem, but as a man with 2 hands and a toolbox, as someone willing to show up and do the work, expecting nothing in return. I'm going to do something incredibly stupid, he said quietly. Oh no, Thomas sighed. What? I am going to show up. Not with money, not with explanations, just with a toolbox and the willingness to work. And if she sends me away, I will go. But I have to try. I have to prove that what we had was real, even if the foundation was wrong. She will probably kill you. Maybe I deserve that. You definitely deserve that. Maggie's voice came through the laptop. But Ali, I am proud of you for finally choosing the hard thing instead of the easy one. That night, Alistair went to his father's old workshop, found his father's tools, still carefully maintained. The table saw, the drills, the hammers and measuring tapes. He ran his hands over them, remembering lessons learned in sawdust and patience. Then he loaded them into his modest sedan, not the Mercedes, not the Maybach, just the anonymous car he had bought for his life as Al, and drove to the south side, found Lena's building, sat in the dark car, staring at the broken windows, the peeling paint, the enormity of the task ahead. This was not a weekend project. This was months of back-breaking labor, and she might not even let him through the door. But he had to try, had to prove that his feelings were real, even if everything else had been a lie. Had to show her, through action instead of words, that he understood now what mattered. Not grand gestures, not money, not apologies wrapped in real estate deeds, just showing up, day after day, doing the work. earning through calloused hands and aching muscles the right to stand beside her, even if she never forgave him, even if she never loved him again. At least she would have her dream. At least he would have done one honest thing. He drove home, set his alarm for 5 in the morning, and tried to sleep. Tomorrow he would begin the hardest work of his life. And for the first time since the festival, he felt something other than despair. He felt purpose. Lena arrived at her building at 6 a.m., armed with a crowbar and determination. The front door was stuck, swollen wood refusing to budge. She wedged the crowbar in, levered with all her strength, felt something give. The door opened with a shriek of rusty hinges. Inside, the morning light revealed the full extent of the disaster. Water stains on the ceiling, holes in the walls, ancient linoleum peeling from the floor, the smell of mildew and neglect. Her $17,000 suddenly felt laughably inadequate. "You can do this," she whispered to herself. "You have rebuilt yourself from worse." She started with the debris, broken shelving, rotted display cases, 30 years of accumulated neglect, bagged and dragged to the dumpster she had rented. Her muscles screamed, her hands blistered. She welcomed the pain. Pain meant progress, meant control, meant this was real and hers and built on honest effort. By 8, she had cleared maybe a tenth of the front room. By 9, her back hurt so badly she could barely straighten. By 10, she was crying from frustration and exhaustion. But she refused to stop, refused to admit this might be impossible alone. She heard a car door close outside, footsteps, the scrape of something heavy being moved. She turned, crowbar in hand like a weapon, ready to defend her space from whoever had come to offer pity or judgment. Alistair stood in the doorway. He wore work boots, old jeans, a flannel shirt she had never seen, no expensive watch, no designer clothes. He carried a toolbox in one hand, in the other a white paper bag. "Before you throw that at me?" He nodded at her crowbar. "I brought coffee. Black, 2 sugars, and breakfast sandwiches, because you need to eat, and I remember you never do when you're stressed." "Get out!" Her voice shook. "I told you. I am not here as Alistair Finch. I am not here with money or explanations or anything except these." He held up his hands. 2 hands. Basic carpentry skills my father taught me before he died, and the willingness to work however long it takes to prove that my feelings for you were real, even if everything else was wrong. I do not want your help. I know, but I am offering anyway. No strings, no expectations, no demands for forgiveness or gratitude. Just labor, because you deserve your dream, and this— He gestured at the wreckage around them. "This is too much for one person, even one person as stubborn and brave as you. Why should I trust anything you say? You lied about everything." "You should not trust my words. You should trust my actions. Watch me, test me. If I slip up, if I try to use money to fix things, if I try to control anything, tell me to leave. But let me prove, through work instead of words, that I know what I did wrong, that I am trying to be better." Lena wanted to refuse, wanted to throw him out, barricade the door, rebuild her walls higher than ever. But looking at the disaster around her, looking at his hands, no longer manicured, already showing the rough edge of someone who had been preparing for this, she felt her resolve waver. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care?" "Because I love you. Because I was a coward who chose comfort over courage, and I need to prove I can choose differently now. Because you told me once that honesty matters more than anything, and I owe you honest action. Because—" his voice broke, "because losing you broke me, and the only way I know to put myself back together is to help you build your dream, not buy it. Build it." She stared at him for a long moment, saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the genuine remorse, the desperate hope. Saw, too, the man she had fallen in love with. Not Al the Uber driver, not Alistair the billionaire, just a human being, flawed and frightened, trying to make amends. "One day," she said finally, "you can help today. That is all I'm promising. If you show up tomorrow, we will see. But this does not mean forgiveness. This does not mean we are okay. This means I'm practical enough to accept free labor when I'm desperate." "One day," he agreed. "Thank you." They worked in near silence. Lena gave terse instructions. Alistair followed without question. Bag debris, rip up linoleum, pry damaged drywall from the studs. Hard, dirty, honest work. By noon, his hands were bleeding through his work gloves. She noticed but said nothing, just brought him bandages from her first aid kit and returned to work. By 3, they had cleared the main room. By 5, she was too exhausted to continue. "Same time tomorrow?" he asked as they stood in the empty, gutted space. She wanted to say no, wanted to maintain her walls. But tomorrow she had to demo the back room, and that was even worse than what they had accomplished today. "Same time," she agreed. "But Alistair, this is labor. This is not us. Do you understand?" "I understand." She watched him walk to his car, shoulders slumped with exhaustion, and felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness, not trust. But maybe the tiniest crack of possibility, because he had not tried to take over, had not pulled out his wallet, had not done anything except exactly what she asked. And his hands were bleeding. He had worked until he bled, and he had not complained, had not even mentioned it. That was not nothing, even if it was not enough. By the end of the first week, they had developed a rhythm. Alistair arrived at 6, coffee and breakfast. Work until Lena had to leave for her hotel shift at noon. She returned at 3, worked until 7, when she had to pick up Noah. They spoke only about the work. Measurements, materials needed, structural problems discovered. Nothing personal, nothing about the past or the future, just the present moment, the immediate task, the shared labor of transformation. Rosa visited on Wednesday, took one look at Alistair wielding a sledgehammer, and pulled Lena aside. "What is he doing here? Helping, and you are letting him. I need help, he is offering. I am desperate. That is the extent of it." Rosa studied her friend. "Is it really?" "Yes, no, I do not know." Lena rubbed her eyes. "I hate him, Rosa. I hate what he did. But I also see him bleeding through his gloves and not complaining, see him showing up every morning even though I barely speak to him. And part of me wonders if maybe people can change. If maybe mistakes can be forgiven. Be careful, Amor. People can change, but some wounds do not heal just because someone says sorry. He has not said sorry, not once this week. He has just shown up, done the work. That is all. And that, Lena realized, meant more than any apology ever could. By the second week, her parents knew. Kate showed up on Saturday with lunch, found Alistair installing new electrical fixtures, work he had taught himself via YouTube videos, he admitted, and her expression cycled through shock, anger, and reluctant understanding. "Can I speak with you?" Kate asked Lena. "Privately." They stepped outside into the November cold. "Are you back together?" "No, he's helping with the building. That is all." "Lena, sweetheart, that man lied to you, to all of us. Your father wants to. I know what Dad wants, but this is my decision. And right now, I'm choosing to accept help when I need it. That does not mean I trust him. It means I'm practical." Kate studied her daughter. "You still love him?" "I love the man I thought he was. I'm not sure that man exists." "Maybe he is trying to become that man. Maybe that is what all this is." Kate gestured at the building. "Maybe he is trying to build himself into someone worthy of you. Or maybe he is just easing his guilt before moving on to his real life. Only time will tell." Kate kissed her forehead. "Just protect your heart. You have been through enough." But protecting her heart was becoming harder every day, because she saw things. The way Alistair's face lit up when Noah drew him a new dinosaur picture, the way he never, not once, mentioned his money or his company. The way his hands grew increasingly rough, calluses forming over calluses, transforming from businessman to builder. the way he looked at her when he thought she was not watching. Like she was the sun, and he was freezing, grateful for any warmth even from a distance. By the third week, Noah asked to help. She could not refuse him, could not take away his right to be part of this. So her son worked beside them on Saturday, sweeping up debris, helping measure boards, drawing plans on the walls for where displays would go, and watching him with Alistair nearly broke her, because Noah had forgiven faster than she could, had accepted Alistair's quiet presence, his patience, his genuine interest in dinosaur facts. Children, she realized, saw what adults hid. They saw effort. They saw consistency. They saw a man who showed up every single day and asked for nothing in return. "Mama," Noah asked one evening after Alistair had left, "is Alistair going to stay this time?" "I do not know, baby. I hope he does. He is sad, but he is trying not to be. I can tell. And I think maybe if we let him help long enough, he will be less sad. And maybe you will too." Out of the mouths of children, Lena thought. Truth that adults were too scared to speak. By the fourth week, the building had transformed. New electrical, new plumbing, walls repaired and primed for paint. The skeleton of her dream, visible now beneath the years of neglect. "We need to talk about money," Alistair said one evening. They were sitting on the floor, exhausted, eating pizza that Kate had dropped off. "No. Lena, you need commercial appliances, industrial oven, refrigeration, mixers. That is not optional. And it is expensive. I will figure it out. I have researched restaurant supply companies that offer financing." I said no. She set down her pizza. "I appreciate your help, more than I can say, but I will not take your money. Not directly, not through loans you arrange, not through anything. This is my bakery, my investment, my risk. But no buts. If I cannot afford the equipment, I will wait. I will save. I will find another way. But I will not build my dream on your guilt money." He was quiet for a long time. Then, what if it was not about guilt? It is always about guilt. That is why you are here. "No, I am here because I love you, because I want you to succeed, because watching you build this," he gestured around the transformed space, "watching you refuse to quit, refuse to take shortcuts, refuse to compromise your vision, that is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. And yes, I want to help financially because I have the means, but if you will not accept that, I respect it. Your bakery, your terms, your way." It was the most he had said in a month. Lena absorbed the words, turned them over, looked for the manipulation she had trained herself to detect, found none, just exhaustion and honesty, and a love that felt too big to contain. "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay, what?" "Okay, I will let you keep helping. With labor. Just labor. But Alistair, I am still angry. I am still hurt. This does not fix what you did. I know. I am not trying to fix it. I am just trying to be worthy of a second chance, even if I never get one." They finished their pizza in silence. And when he left that night, Lena stood in her nearly complete bakery and let herself imagine, just for a moment, a future where trust was possible again, where broken things could be repaired, where lies could be forgiven, where two damaged people might build something honest together. It was a dangerous dream, but then again, so was a bakery, so was loving someone, so was everything worth having. Maybe dangerous dreams were the only ones worth pursuing. The storm came on a Thursday night in early December, 8 weeks after the festival. Lena was at the bakery late, installing the shelving she had finally been able to afford, used, purchased from a restaurant liquidation sale, but sturdy and hers. Alistair had offered to help, but she had sent him home. She needed space, needed to remember she could do this alone. The rain started suddenly, the way October's storm had, thunder that shook the windows, lightning that turned the world bright and strange. She kept working, determined to finish. But the power died, plunging everything into darkness illuminated only by her phone's flashlight. She heard the door open, saw a figure in the doorway, backlit by lightning. "I saw your car," Alistair said. "Knew you were here alone. I brought candles and a battery lantern and—" He held up a bag. "Soup, because I had a feeling you had not eaten dinner. You need to stop doing that." "What?" "Showing up when I need you. It makes it harder to stay angry." He set down the supplies, lit the candles, the warm glow transforming the space. "I am not trying to manipulate you. I remember the first storm, the night we met, and I thought maybe you would not want to be alone in another one. She should send him away, should maintain her boundaries." But looking at him in the candlelight, exhausted and hopeful, she could not find the words. "Sit," she said instead. "We can share the soup, but we need to talk, really talk, no more avoiding." They sat on the floor, backs against the wall she had painted last week, passing the soup container between them. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, in their small circle of light, something else was building. "Why did you lie?" she asked. "The real reason, not the practiced speech. The truth." He took a long breath. "Because I was lonely. Desperately. Impossibly lonely. Everyone in my life wanted something from me. Money, influence, connections. No one wanted just me. And when you got in my car that night, you did not know who I was. You just saw a person. And I was so starved for that, so desperate to be seen as human instead of as a bank account, that I made the worst decision of my life. You could have told me later. After we connected, you had so many chances." "I know. And every day I did not tell you, the lie grew bigger. I kept telling myself I would confess tomorrow, but tomorrow came and you would say something about trusting me, about honesty being everything, and I would lose my courage. I was a coward, Lena. That is the truth. I chose my comfort over your right to make an informed choice. You took away my agency. You made me into your experiment. I know, and I am sorry. I know sorry is not enough. I know it does not fix anything, but I need you to know that I understand what I did. I betrayed your trust. I repeated the pattern your ex-husband set. I hurt you and Noah, and the only excuse I have is that I was selfish and scared and wrong." Lena felt tears on her face, angry tears, sad tears, tears she had been holding back for 2 months. "I fell in love with you, with Al. And then I found out Al does not exist. How do I reconcile that? How do I trust that what we had was real when it was built on lies? Al does exist. He is me, the real me, without the money defining me. Every Saturday morning, every conversation, every moment we shared, that was real. My feelings were real. I just hid the circumstances, and that was unforgivable. But the love was not a lie, Lena. That was the only honest thing in the whole mess. How do I know that? How do I know you did not just love the idea of me, the struggling single mum you could save? Because I do not want to save you. I want to stand beside you. I want to watch you save yourself because you are the strongest person I have ever met. I want to be worthy of you, not your savior. And I know the difference now. I learned it by spending 2 months bleeding and sweating beside you, watching you refuse to give up, watching you build this impossible dream one board at a time." His voice cracked. "You do not need me, Lena. But God, I need you. I need you to make me better, braver, more honest. I need you to keep holding me accountable. I need you to teach me how to be the man I pretended to be." The storm outside reached a crescendo. Inside, something was breaking and rebuilding simultaneously. "I am terrified," Lena whispered, "of trusting you again, of being wrong again, of teaching Noah that women forgive men who lie. Then do not forgive me. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But can you let me keep showing up? Can you let me keep proving, day after day, that I have changed, that I understand what I did wrong, and I am committed to being better?" She looked around the bakery. At the walls they had repaired together, the floors they had refinished, the dream they had built with their hands, not his money, their labor. "I want to trust you," she said, "so much, but trust has to be earned, and it takes more than 2 months of construction work. I know. I will earn it, however long it takes. I will show up every day and prove I'm worth the risk." "What about your company, your board, your real life?" "This is my real life. The company is just how I make money. You and Noah, you are what makes life worth living. I have been sleepwalking for 20 years, and you woke me up. I am not going back to sleep." Thunder shook the building. Lena reached out, took his hand, felt the calluses, the rough skin, the physical evidence of transformation. "These tell the truth," she said softly, tracing the lines of his palm. "Words can lie. But these hands, they show me who you have become. Lena, I'm not saying I forgive you. I'm saying I see you trying. And maybe if you keep trying, if you keep showing up, if you keep being honest even when it is hard, maybe eventually trust becomes possible again." He brought her hand to his lips, kissed her scarred knuckles. "I will keep showing up, I promise." They sat in the candlelight, the storm raging, holding hands like lifelines, not fixed, not healed. But maybe, just maybe, beginning to believe repair was possible. Outside, the storm began to ease. Inside, the real work was just beginning. The work of rebuilding trust, of proving change, of choosing every single day to be brave enough to hope. It was the hardest work either of them had ever done, but then again, the best things always were. December first arrived with light snow and enormous stakes. Opening day for the honest crumb. Lena had been awake since 3 a.m., baking. Her grandmother's recipes, perfected over months. Everything ready, everything perfect, everything terrifying. Alistair had asked if she wanted him there. She had said yes, not as a partner, not yet, but as someone who had earned the right to witness this moment. The bakery gleamed, exposed brick walls painted warm white, vintage display cases she had restored herself, pendant lights Alistair had installed, hanging like small moons, 8 small tables with mismatched chairs that somehow worked together, the name painted on the window, the honest crumb in elegant script. It was everything she had dreamed. Built with her own hands, funded with her own savings, her own small business loan, no guilt money, no shortcuts, just honest work and impossible faith. "Nervous?" Rosa asked, arriving with the twins and enough coffee for a small army. "Completely terrified. What if no one comes? What if everyone comes and hates it? What if I have made a terrible mistake?" "Then you will have made it honestly. That is all anyone can do." Noah appeared, wearing his The Honest Crumb apron, face serious. "I put the dinosaur drawings by the register like you said, for people to see, so they know we are family. We—" Lena felt her throat tighten. Somewhere in the last 3 months, this had become bigger than just her dream. It had become theirs, hers and Noah's, and everyone who had believed in her. Kate and Richard arrived next, her father carrying a framed photo. "Your grandmother," he said simply. "She should be here." The photo showed a woman with Lena's eyes and Lena's stubborn jaw, hands deep in dough, smiling like she held the world's secrets. Lena hung it by the register where she would see it every day. At 6:45, Alistair arrived. He wore jeans and a simple shirt, his hands still showing the scars of labor. He carried nothing except a small wrapped package. "You came," Lena said. "Did you think I would not?" "I did not know. This is my moment. I was not sure you would want to be just another customer. I am not here as a customer." He handed her the package. "Open it later. When you have time. It is just something I wanted you to have." At 7 a.m., Lena unlocked the door. Her heart hammered, her hands shook. This was it, the moment she had been building toward for years. The first customer was Mrs. Chen, Noah's former babysitter, who ordered coffee and a rugula and cried while eating it, "Your grandmother would be so proud." The second was a young couple who had seen the viral video, wanted to support her. The third was a food blogger who had been following her farmers market appearances. By 7:30, a line stretched down the block. People came because of her food, came because of her story, came because the bakery represented something they believed in: honest work, second chances, dreams that refused to die. Lena worked behind the counter, Noah beside her helping with simple tasks, Rosa managing the coffee station. Her parents sat at the corner table, greeting every customer like family, and Alistair cleaned tables, refilled displays, washed dishes in the back, not trying to take credit, not trying to center himself, just being useful, just being present. At 10, there was a lull. Lena stepped outside for air, overwhelmed by the success, by the community that had shown up. Alistair followed. "You did it. We did it. I could not have finished the building without you." "No, you would have. It would have taken longer, but you would have found a way. You do not need me, Lena. You never did. But I hope maybe you want me anyway." She looked at him, saw exhaustion and pride and love so fierce it made her chest ache. "Open the package you brought. Now. Now." He pulled it from his pocket. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside, a simple key, attached to a small tag that read, "My apartment key. Not because you need rescue, but because I want you to know you have a safe place whenever you need one. No strings, just space that is yours if you want it." "Alistair, wait! There is more." He took a breath. "I want to tell you something true. My name is Alistair James Finch. I am 45 years old. I run a private equity firm worth $15 billion. I have $4.2 billion personally, which sounds impressive until you realize it has made me lonely and isolated and convinced that money solves problems it actually creates. I have a sister named Margaret who lives in London. My parents are both dead and I miss them every day. I'm terrified of being loved for what I have instead of who I am. I'm learning that honest work matters more than inherited wealth. And I am completely, desperately in love with you and your son. That is the truth, all of it. No lies, no omissions. Just me, being honest, hoping maybe it is not too late." Tears streamed down Lena's face. "It is not too late. It has never been too late. I have been waiting for you to be this honest, to show me the real you. No performance, no walls. This is who I needed from the beginning. Can I kiss you? Not as Al. Not as some version of myself. Just as me, all of me, honestly. Yes, please, yes." They kissed on the sidewalk outside the Honest Crumb, snow falling gently, customers watching through the window, applauding. It was not perfect. It was not a fairy tale. It was two broken people choosing, consciously and courageously, to believe in repair, in forgiveness, in the hard, honest work of building love on a foundation of truth. When they pulled apart, Noah was standing in the doorway. "So is Alistair staying now, for real?" Lena looked at Alistair, saw her future, saw the man who had made terrible mistakes and was spending every day trying to earn redemption, saw the partner she had been looking for all along, not to save her, but to stand beside her. "Would you like to stay, Alistair, for real?" "More than anything in this world." "Then stay. Help me run this bakery. Be part of this dream. Be part of our family. But know that if you ever lie to me again, I will not. I swear on everything I have ever cared about, I will not lie to you again. Only truth, even when it is hard, especially when it is hard." They went back inside together, the three of them. And for the rest of the day, they worked side by side, serving pastries and coffee, sharing smiles with strangers who became friends, building not just a business, but a life. At closing time, after the last customer left, after Noah fell asleep on the bench, after Rosa and her parents had gone home, Lena and Alistair sat at the corner table, exhausted and happy. "I cannot believe we did this," she whispered. "You did this. I just helped." "No, we did this together. That is the point. I do not have to do everything alone anymore. I can accept help. I can trust. I can build something with someone. As long as that someone is honest." "Always honest," he promised. "From now on, always." She reached across the table, took his hand, felt the calluses, the proof of his transformation. These hands built more than a bakery. They built trust. They built us. Then I will keep working every day to be worthy of that trust. Outside, Chicago settled into winter night. Inside, the honest crumb glowed warm, a small beacon of hope and honest work. And upstairs, in the small apartment Lena would eventually rent above the bakery, their future waited. Not perfect, not easy, but real, built on truth, built with hands that knew how to create, not just acquire, built one honest day at a time, by two people brave enough to believe in second chances, and that was the most beautiful thing of all. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought of the story. See you in the next video.